Hey y'all, what's good? My name is Raven.
Yeah! Yep, that's me.
And welcome back or welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be touring a bunch of apartments here in Houston, Texas. I'm actually recording this intro like a week after the fact, but my friend Toyosi, who was actually featured in my vlog a couple weeks ago, she decided to move to Houston. Yes! So we spent 2 days touring 6 different apartment complexes and looking at various units within each complex. I would consider myself to be a Houstonian. I moved here when I was in middle school and my family is here, and I'd love to give you some insights into what it's like to rent down here and what our experience was helping my friend to find her dream apartment. In this video, I'm going to be sharing some of the best neighborhoods to live in Houston, some tips for apartment hunting generally, but also specifically down here, all the documents that you're going to need to rent somewhere, lots of footage and feedback for the specific complexes that we went to, and great video personality and editing skills. I mean,
why would you click off of this video? It's gonna be great.
Are you trying to click out right now? What are you doing? Stop that. Something important to note is all the apartments in this video are what we call inside the loop, and I'll have a map up here as my voice is going. Inside the loop tends to be a more like urban, downtown, central, metropolitan area, and it's considered to be one of the most desirable areas in Houston because it is so close to clubs and nightlife and restaurants and so on and so forth. One thing to know about Houston is that it is a massive city, so you definitely want to be in a location where you can access what you need easily, because otherwise you're going to be driving and or transporting yourself quite some ways to get to where you want to go. So, in my humble opinion, here are some neighborhoods that I think are the most desirable to live in inside the loop. This includes Midtown, the Heights, Museum District, the Memorial area, as well as 3rd Ward, which I'm partial to because I live in 3rd Ward. So a couple things to note about our apartment hunting journey in this video. My friend was looking to stick to a budget of $1,300 a month for rent or less. She was looking for places that are pet friendly, have in-unit washer and dryer, include a gym, have nice communal spaces, include central AC, especially in Houston because this is very, very important. It gets super hot in the summer and you will actually pass away without central AC. Trust me. Elevator access, amazing security because she's living by herself and she is a young femme, a young woman, and high quality appliances. Some optional but nice features would be to have a balcony and a gas stove. Here's some documents that you're gonna need if you're trying to rent down here in Houston. 1, you're gonna need to have a proof of income. Normally they will accept a pay stub to prove that, just that you have a job, that you can afford to live there, that's what it means. A good credit score always helps, and if you haven't built credit, that doesn't mean you can't rent, but it might be a little more difficult, or you might have to make concessions or give more money down for a deposit, so try to have a good credit score, even though the system is racist and problematic. 2, some form of ID. So my friend only had her learner's permit, for example. That was completely fine. If you have a driver's license, passport, that will all suffice. They also require proof of renter's insurance, but I would not recommend purchasing renter's insurance until you find the exact apartment you want to live in. Sometimes they have particular companies that they partner with for renter's insurance or different requirements for that particular property, so definitely check with them before you purchase anything. In terms of monies owed, most places ask for an admin fee, an application fee, and a security deposit, which for me, because I've only rented in New York, I was so surprised because when I rented, I had to give first month's rent, last month's rent, and the deposit, which was equal to a month of rent. So I had to give 3 months of rent up front on top of application fees. I don't know if this is just a Houston thing or if I got ripped off with my last renting experience, but if you're thinking about moving down to Houston from the East Coast, it's seriously gonna be a cakewalk because wow, the cost of living is so much more affordable here. Something else to note is that all of the locations that we went at were willing to prorate the rent for whenever my friend wanted to move in. She actually just moved in today and they prorated her rent for the last few days of the month because today is, what is today? Today is May 26th and she moved in today, so they prorated her rent for this month, and then starting next month she'll pay a full month of rent. Prorating rent essentially means that she only has to pay on a day-by-day basis instead of having to pay the whole month, for example, which is really nice because this gives you a lot of flexibility as to when you can move. You can move like literally any time in the middle of the month depending on the complex, and that would be cool. But every single place that we went to was willing to prorate, so I think maybe that's just a thing down here. So what are my tips for apartment hunting? Some of these are gonna be kind of general and some of them will be a little more specific to Houston. But one thing I'll have to say is trust your intuition. If it doesn't feel like home, it isn't. There were a couple places in this video where my friend and I walked in and we just knew immediately that it was not gonna cut it, you know? The second tip I have is to ask for exactly what you want. It's important to be really clear about what are your non-negotiables and what are things you're willing to be a little bit more lenient on in this apartment hunting process. For example, my friend was very serious about the fact that her apartment needed to be somewhere quiet and she needed to have in-unit washer and dryer. She didn't want to have to deal with the coin-operated machine or hauling her laundry up and down stairs. And so you need to make a list of what are things that are absolutely lines in the sand, non-negotiables for you, and then seek that out for yourself. Third tip that I have is to ask a lot of questions. I'll include some resources in the description. Before we went out apartment hunting, I just looked up what are some good questions to ask while I'm looking at apartments, and I made sure to write down a lot of the questions that seemed most relevant to me and that I would really want to have answers to. My next tip is be prepared for what you see in person to not exactly match up to what you see online and vice versa. There's one particular apartment in this video that online looked so flossy, so nice. She was cute, okay? And then we got there in person and it was so busted, like, and not in a good way, not like busted, like it was busted, okay?
It's gonna be bustin'.
So be prepared for that to happen. Also, be prepared to be pleasantly surprised. There were some places that we looked at online that looked kind of just okay, and then we got there in person and we really loved it, and it was even better than expected. So, you know, apartments can catfish too. Sometimes they just get a really good photographer. Keep that in mind. In terms of specific things that I would encourage you to ask, in terms of Houston renting, ask every property you tour what are their protocols for flooding. A lot of people are moving to Houston during the summer because they're getting new jobs or they're relocating or working remotely, so on and so forth. The cost of living down here is so much lower than so many other places in the country and the quality of life is quite high. That's all fine and dandy, but if you're a newcomer here, you may not know that the summer is when hurricane season starts. And whatever place you move to, they need to have some protocols in place for flooding. So here are some ways that you could bring it up. You could casually ask, you know, what are some protocols that you have in place to protect tenants when hurricane season starts? And did you lose power and or water during the last major hurricane? The way that they answer will give you really great insight into how well they're actually prepared for that. For example, one of the apartment complexes we went to, we asked them what their protocols were, and they said that they have an entirely separate parking lot that is way higher than the normal one that they are able to relocate their residents to when hurricane season starts so that their cars don't end up underwater or they don't get flooded. I also personally always prefer being on a higher level in an apartment complex. I'm never on the first level, both for safety reasons and for hurricane safety reasons. So I definitely would encourage you to think about what floor you're on when you're moving to a new apartment. Okay, one last thing before we jump into the apartment tours. I just wanted to let y'all know that I'm not including any of the footage of the actual premises of each apartment, so I'm not showing all the extra amenities outside the actual unit that someone would be living in because it would make the video way too long. So just for your knowledge, every single apartment in this video has a dishwasher, in-unit laundry, a gym, and some great communal spaces. Almost all the apartments in this video have a pool excluding the mid-main location. Okay, I think I've covered everything, and with that, let's go ahead and jump into the tours.
Let's jump into the doors. Let's jump into the doors. And jump into the doors.
Okay. Roll the film, Raven. Why are you like this? Why are you like this? So the first apartment complex we went to is located in the Rice military neighborhood close to Buffalo Bayou Park, and we looked at 2 different units in this complex. The first unit we looked at cost $1,361 per month and was 665 square feet. So it was a little over the ideal budget. However, this unit was recently upgraded with new appliances. Additionally, it was tucked away in a corner with only one neighboring apartment. So that was a pretty big plus because it seemed quite quiet. The leasing agent offered to show us another apartment, so we looked at a similar unit with less upgrades but much more space. This apartment cost $1,300 per month at a square footage of 732. Even though this apartment didn't have upgraded appliances, the additional space gave it a really nice homey vibe, and the leasing agent offered to upgrade the sink for free before move-in, so this unit was a strong contender. Some general pros and cons for this location. Pros, it was in a really nice, quiet residential area. It was really close to Bayou Park, which is definitely a plus. And as we were walking around, residents said hi, they were really friendly. It seemed like a nice community space. Additionally, this apartment complex was gated, which is great because that makes it much more safe. And the staff was very professional. Some cons, walking around the complex really felt like navigating a maze. I didn't get a lot of great footage of this, but it was just really confusing to get around. And generally, the apartments just didn't have a wow factor. They were nice, but maybe not compelling enough. The next place we went to had fully furnished units available for viewing, which in my opinion is always helpful to actually imagine what it would be like to live in that space. We only saw one unit style here, and the price ranged from $1,288 a month if she signed a 15-month lease, up to $1,361 a month if she signed a shorter lease. So basically the price was dependent on how long of a lease she signed. This apartment was 576 square feet, which made this the smallest apartment we looked at over this 2-day period. This was actually my favorite apartment of the 6 that we toured, but there were some drawbacks. Here are the pros and cons. The apartment had a really nice industrial aesthetic, which is my personal preferred aesthetic. The complex is smack dab in the middle of Midtown, so it's really close to a bunch of restaurants. The appliances were all new and updated. So there was a little patio, and you love that. If you want some little plant babies out or something, we love a patio. Cons. The location did not seem particularly safe or secure. The bottom 2 floors in the parking garage were open to the public, and the first few floors of the complex housed restaurants and other businesses, which is convenient for going to get a midnight snack, but there were lots of interesting, shady characters just sort of loitering outside of the complex. Additionally, the space just felt kind of cold and uninviting. Now, this apartment was bussin'. So the unit that my friend actually wanted wasn't available for viewing because they were renovating the space after the last occupant. So we saw a slightly larger unit to get kind of an idea of what it would look like. The unit we looked at was $1,450 at 928 square feet. Honestly, the space was lovely, and I could totally see a couple living here together. It felt warm and cozy. The actual unit Toyosi would be in would have a similar style and look something like this and cost $1,280 with a square footage of 806. Some pros: very homey feel, nice warm wood finishes, and super spacious. Some cons: we couldn't view the actual apartment my friend was interested in, so considering she was on a short timeline, that made things a little more difficult. Additionally, we could hear every single step from the neighbors who were upstairs, and the leasing agent told us that there's wood installed between floors, which might be why the sound insulation wasn't very good. And considering this was a major priority for my friend, this did not bode well for this particular location. Oh goodness, this was a very interesting complex to tour. We looked at 3 different apartments at this location. The first one was $960 a month at 709 square feet. It just felt really cramped and the ceilings were quite low. I didn't capture this on camera, but there were a bunch of bugs like everywhere as we were walking through the halls between units. It was really gross. Just wasn't good vibes. The first 2 units we looked at were identical, except the second one had more updated appliances and wood floors. So that bumped the price up to $1,080 for the same 709 square footage. We also looked at a remodeled unit with an in-unit washer and dryer that was just massive. This spot was $1,225 a month for 950 square feet. Some general pros for this location, obviously very affordable compared to the other options we're looking at in this video, and it's a lot of space for what my friend would theoretically be paying. However, some cons. The property was unkempt as we were walking through. It just looked dirty. There were dead bugs everywhere. They didn't really specify online that some units had in-unit washer and dryer and others did not, so that was a bit of a surprise when we arrived. Also, every unit had a weird, distinct smell. Most of them smelled like cigarettes or kind of like wet, moldy laundry a little bit, and the lighting wasn't great. The ceilings were also really short. You could reach up and easily touch them, which made the space feel really congested. Before we left, we went back to the leasing office to wrap things up with the leasing agent who had shown us around, and we overheard a tenant complaining about the poor water quality in their apartment, which wasn't a good sign. We also kind of noticed as we were walking through that the water in the toilets was like a weird brown color.
You little nasty.
Overall, this was our least favorite of the 6. These next apartments were in the Texas Medical Center, and we looked at 2 units. So the first one here was $1,217 and 682 square feet. It honestly felt a lot bigger than it was, and the layout was quite nice. Plus, there was a balcony. We'd love to see it. The second one we looked at was even more massive. This apartment came in just a little bit over budget at $1,309 and a whopping 899 square feet. Some pros for these 2 units, just so much space. Even in the smaller units, felt really spacious, really homey. The management was super duper nice. The amenities were great, and it had a nice, warm, homey feel. Some cons: this complex is pretty close to NRG Stadium, so we were concerned about noise, but the leasing agent said they typically don't have any noise issues, so that was reassuring. So these next apartments were in this neighborhood called Braeswood, which is actually really close to the Texas Medical Center. We looked at 2 units here, and the first one was 631 square feet for $1,245 a month. And the second one was 620 square feet for $1,255 a month. I think the price difference was due to where the apartment was in the building. In terms of the similarity of the rooms, they were actually quite similar, except the placement of the bedroom was further back in the second unit, and the second unit didn't have sliding doors like the first one. Some pros for this location: it had a very modern, chic look throughout the entire complex, not just the individual apartments. The customer service was lovely. All the appliances in these apartments are brand spanking new. Like, everything is new and shiny and lovely. My friend would be the first tenant ever because this is a brand new property. It was only built in September of 2020. That's kind of nice, I guess. No one else's dead skin cells are, well, all right. That's not how I want to articulate that pro. It would just be nice if she's the first person in that apartment. We'll leave it at that. Some cons: the apartments were bullet style, which really made the space feel small and cramped, and it kind of felt more like a hotel than a home. There just wasn't a warmth about the place. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know, which apartment do you think my friend chose, and which one would you choose for yourself? I'm very curious. If you're thinking about moving to Houston soon, I really hope this was helpful to you, and please, let me know how your journey is going. Ask questions in the comments. I will do everything that I can to help and to answer. My guitar matches my outfit today. Wait, look at this. Isn't she beautiful? She's a little out of tune. We're gonna ignore that. So my friend Toyosi gave me the excellent idea to sing my own outros, so now we're gonna do that. Thanks for watching Raven Reveals. I hope you learned something new. Thanks for watching Raven Reveals. I'll see you again real soon. Bye. That was pretty bad. I mean, it rhymed, so, you know, what more do you want from me? I don't know. That's all I got today. Very sweaty. Everything's sticking to my body.